everyone, and welcome back to the Student Spin podcast on the Georgia Highlands campus. I'm your host, Amber Lindemann, and today I am joined by psychology professor Dr. Bentley Gibson and a student of hers, Elena Kennebrew, as well as Anna Crucell with the 6 Mile Post. Today they are going to be talking about psychology, everything that it entails, some of their stories, and then just an all-out reminder of what it means to be included.
So I'm excited to be here, and I have to thank Anna for helping to put this together, and Elena for coming and sharing her story, and thank you, Amber, for arranging this. And I'm here today to share my passion for psychology, but also to help us understand strategies to help us be better humans. We're going to lean into a topic called social psychology today in the area of inclusion and belonging. This is really important during these times when there's a lot of division in our world and people are having a hard time just even having civil discourse. So the goal today is to just really keep it general and story share about times when we either felt included or excluded, but also to tie this back to psychology and theory and research about how these experiences can impact individuals, victims of exclusion, but also how we as human beings can be better and make sure that regardless of who someone is and our own biases, we're still including them. Mm-hmm. So that's the goal here for today. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, y'all, or we could just jump right on in.
Yeah, I think we should just jump in.
Let's jump in. So some theories, and we talked about these theories in our class on social psychology about belonging and inclusion in general. And one theory we talk about is social identity theory. And as human beings, we come into this world where we're making categories about everything. I mean, that's how we learn. I have a 2-year-old, and he has new words every day. But he's learning, right, by making categories. This is a ball. This is mommy. This is daddy. We also make categories for identities. And even young children, that's what my doctorate was on, was looking at how even in preschool, you can see children developing these stereotypes about what it means to be a girl versus a boy, black versus white, to be tall versus short, big versus small as early as preschool. Yeah. And so my research in graduate school was to see, when does this start? When do we start developing these social groups and how does it impact us? And social identity theory says it starts early. We form groups and we start identifying with one of them. And then we start putting meanings to these groups. And that can be good, right? Because it can give us some, ideas about categories and even can build self-esteem and group esteem if we have positive ideas about those groups, right? But if we have negative ideas about those groups, it can get kind of ugly. And it can lead to some really nasty things in history we've seen, even currently. Everything from murder to not hiring somebody, to not sitting next to somebody because they are who they are, the way they are, to even, we talk about in our class, some things that people may not be aware of, right? Like their nonverbal communication. Yeah. Do you look at somebody? Do you smile at them? Do you say hello? Or do you look at them like you're disgusting, right? And those things are hard to control, more so than what comes out of the mouth. But this stuff still is at play today. And at Georgia Highlands, I came here 11 years ago. I can't believe it. And, I really feel like I'm on a mission here. I was sent here to make it a better community for our students, for our leaders, for our staff, to just understand that we're humans. We have these biases. There's research behind why we have them. But if we want to be better, we're going to have to confront them and have some difficult conversations. Yeah. So that's the goal. And I'm talking a lot, but anything y'all want to add?
No, that's great.
So look, that's the goal here today. Another theory that we talk about in my psychology class is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah, I do.
That pyramid, right? Yeah. I love it. If y'all don't know that pyramid, what's at the top of that pyramid?
Self-actualization.
That's what I love all my students, but some come in, and you weren't even a psychology major.
No,
what was your major before you came?
My major was computer science.
She came to my class.
Yeah, I just took it for fun. I took AP Psych, and I really loved it.
Yeah.
And then I took that class and I realized the culture of computer science wasn't really vibing with me as a person.
Yeah.
So that is a bit of exclusion as well. Just there's not as much diversity, there's not that many women, And when you take those classes, it's very obviously geared towards men.
And that's not the Georgia Highlands
Interesting.
only.
It's
that's research
all over.
even in early childhood.
Yeah.
There's research showing that little girls are less likely to get called on in class when they raise their hands in math and science than little boys. So this is a systemic issue. And so she came to my class, but I saw something in her. She had questions. She came in, it's an 11 o'clock class twice a week, and she had questions. Sometimes I didn't even know the answer. I said, let me go look and find out, right? But I saw how she was also connecting the theories. And so as she said, at the top of that pyramid is self-actualization. And if we as human beings just think about that, every human is just walking around this earth trying to reach the top of this pyramid, which is just waking up feeling like I'm living for a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm loved. At the bottom of the pyramid is our physiological needs. We got to eat, we need water, we got to breathe, okay? All humans, animals need that.
Yeah.
Then after that is, are you safe? Do you have safety, right? Do you have a shelter, right? After that in the middle is belonging, self-esteem, love. If you get those, you can get to the top and get to self-actualization. If you don't get there, according to Maslow's theory, it can lead to depression, anxiety, really serious psychological disorders. And when you are excluded or don't feel like you fit in or included, that too can lead to sadness and worry and stop people from getting to self-actualization.
And it stays with you throughout the
life.
years.
For life,
Yeah.
right? These things you will remember. I have stories from childhood to last week.
Yeah.
Do you hear me? That I will never forget. Things people said to me that why would you say that to me? Where did that come from? But because I studied this, I know where it came from.
Yeah.
I know it came from their biases, their lack of understanding of people who are different from them, and their personality traits. Right? Those three things are a deadly combination. Your biases, your stereotypes about people, and a lot of people won't even admit that they have them. But they do. We're humans. And if you want to be a better human, you'll admit that you have them. Then secondly, if you just stick with your own group, and I can look at your Facebooks and social media pages to see how diverse they are, right? Then you're missing out on knowledge about different types of people.
Yeah.
And it shows by the things people say. They say the darndest things.
Yeah.
They say the darndest things. And then third, personality. And we talk about that in psychology. Like, what's your personality like? Are you open to new experiences, or are you closed? People who are open to new experiences, open to change, are flexible. They don't need stereotypes as much because they're open. That's just who they are. Right. They're open to things not being to the rules, which a stereotype is, right? Yeah. People who are conscientious. So that's another trait. Do you think before you act, or are you impulsive? People who think before they act, they are not as ridden to those stereotypes because they're thinking beyond them versus just, I'm going to go with my first gut instinct, which is oftentimes tied to those stereotypes and people don't realize it. So a lot of theory we could cover. If you love this stuff, come take one of my courses. I might change you like I did Elena over here, and you're going to become a psychologist. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I
That's
hope
awesome.
to be with you beyond Georgia Highlands to continue to mentor you because I know you're going to be great. So let's jump in here. One thing I found today especially is that people are avoiding talking about this stuff. They don't want to talk. I won't say it. It's the D word, I call it, but y'all know what it is, right? Okay. They don't want any things dealing with this stuff. They're scared to do it, but I was born to do this. I think since preschool, I have wanted to talk about things like race and gender and sexuality and religion. And I think that's mostly because I grew up from parents in the Jim Crow era and they talked about it, you know? And so I found my passion in talking about it, but I want to help others to be able to do so. And one thing I found that helps is story sharing. Give people times in your life that you've experienced things in a safe space. So that's what we're going to do here today.
Yeah.
We're going to story share. And I've talked a lot, so I'm going to let you go. I want you to either tell me about a time in your life you felt included. That means you felt seen, you felt heard or valued. And how did that impact you? Or a time that you felt excluded. I'm going to give an excluded story, so you can give whatever you'd like. Okay. I'm actually going to give both, but I'll let y'all start. and tell what happened, why you felt excluded, and the impact that it had on you.
Okay.
Who wants to start?
I'll kick it off.
All right.
So I'll briefly touch on a time I feel included, which is all the time. My example is at the newspaper. You mentioned, feeling valued and heard, and I do feel that way at the paper. Thank God. It's a great time. So unfortunately, I can talk more about, times that I've felt excluded.
Before you go to that, let me just ask you, what makes you feel valued at the paper?
When my input is heard or questioned by others, when people are interested in what I have to say, and what makes me feel valued is also when I can make other people feel that way, and especially with being at the newspaper and free speech and all this stuff, it's, important that we're hearing each other and covering things that, you may not be so confident to cover, but you have a team who can be there for you.
Okay, before you go, and I have to just touch on a couple things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you gave some really valuable things on what does it look like to feel valued.
Yeah.
People are listening to you, you're saying. You got freedom.
Yes.
To say what you want.
That's a big
you
one.
don't feel judged. You can, you're free. You don't feel like someone's going to look at you a certain way for saying something.
Yeah.
Free to kind of put yourself out there. And you also said something, you have a team who supports you.
Yes.
And I think that they believe in you. And for that, you feel included.
Valued and included. Yes,
Excellent.
I do. So a time I felt excluded, which anytime I hear the word excluded, I think of like the word of being left out. So my story, when I was in 6th grade, I went to a new middle school, and it was PB Rich Middle, which, it was, I tend to pioneer a lot of things in my life, like with the new degree here. I tend to be one of the first ones who starts something, and I don't know why that is, but that's how it was in middle school for me. And it was the worst year of my academic career.
My gosh.
And, you talk about whether it's, race or gender. And for me, I don't think it was necessarily either of those. I think it was a weight thing. I've always been a little bit smaller than my peers. I'm always, a little bit younger looking because of how skinny I am or whatever you want to say. So I had friends in middle school who reminded me of that. And, I can laugh about it now, even though it is a serious topic, but I've grown, so much. And that happened to me, for a reason. But I could give you plenty of examples of, they would hang out, invite me, and then they would, or talk about it in front of me about hanging out together after school. And then they wouldn't invite me, and then they would post about it. And, it was very obvious. And I think it stems a lot from how you were raised, but yeah, and just, we would walk to lunch together, and they would kind of, hurry up in front of me. And when stuff like that happens to you when you're in 6th grade, it's, you don't really understand it. You can't really come to the understanding that it's not personal to you. It's not because of who you are or because of what your size is, or it's just how they were taught to treat other people. And, I can't get to that level of understanding because I would never treat my friends that way. So you blame yourself. You internalize it, and you turn it all onto who you are, and you judge yourself, and you think, oh, I'm not good enough, or, I can't wear the same clothes that they can wear. And it stays with you, like I was saying earlier, and you kind of shut yourself in because of that, and it stems trust issues. And I'm very picky about the kind of people that I let in my circle now because of it. And so But I'm grateful for it. Like, we
It
were
made you
talking about some
stronger.
of your stories.
Yes.
We've been discussing this for weeks now. I mean, it's been like 2 months that we've been, putting this stuff together. So, and hearing your stories, I appreciate that so much because we're not alone. Even if, the biases is different. The bias is different. But yeah, so that's my story. Now I could not care less if, someone wants to include me or not. It doesn't, it doesn't.
You cannot
bother
be
me.
bullied.
Yeah. I have thick skin now and I'm thankful for that. So.
I see that in you too.
Thank you.
Again, I've only known you for 2 months, but I
Yeah.
see that strength, You might want to call those people up and send them a thank you letter.
Yeah.
Say thank you.
Funny thing is my, and I was so depressed. I would be in class with my head down. I would go to the bathroom and cry. And I was a really weak, emotionally driven person. And my therapist, or the counselor or whatever, because I would go late to class, I just didn't want to be there. I think I missed more days of my 6th grade year than I actually attended because of how horrible it was. And I went to the counselor, and she said to write a pro-con list and to go over it with those girls. When
it was girls, I was going to ask you that.
Yes, it was. And in turn, she should have told me, okay, these are not your friends. This is not a situation or a friendship that I should be trying to save.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's kind of how I was taught at that point. And that stayed with me because... because, I didn't want to feel left out. I didn't want to feel like, I didn't belong or like I wasn't good enough or, I judged myself so much, why would they treat me that way? And, I don't know if it was never like they called me like, skinny or whatever, but I was smaller and people
use that.
treat, yes,
they
do.
use that stuff. Like I heard you say, I don't know if it was because of that, but there's a lot of research that shows that children, adults, they use weight and they discriminate against people because of it. And oftentimes they just think it's people who are larger. It's not just that. You can be smaller.
Yeah.
You can be real short and get it, especially if you're a man, and have these issues, right? So I think it's important to call it what it is. And sometimes because it's not explicit, like people may not say it explicitly, but you know what it is.
But
you know what it is. Yeah. They may not know what it is, or they may, but it's the same outcome. Another thing you said that was really powerful is you were laughing too, right? And we all do that.
Yeah.
My mom and my grandma used to call it to laugh to stop from crying, right? You got to laugh through it. It's a coping mechanism, and it's also a part that makes you get stronger through it, but it doesn't mean just because somebody's laughing through it that it doesn't still hurt. Like, you still think about these things. So thank you for sharing that. That's so good, and let's see what you got.
Okay. As for a story where I was included, I would say my 5th grade year, there was a teacher who I had prayed I could have been in her class, but it was an all-girls class. But unfortunately, I wasn't picked in that lottery. But I finally got
was an
her.
all-girls class?
Yeah, so we did a little thing at my school where you could have an all-girls class and an all-boys class. They did it in the 2nd grade. I was able to get in, but it was a different teacher. And then they did it in the 4th grade, and I didn't get in. And she was the teacher that I was like, oh, I want to be in her class so bad. But I magically was in her class in the 5th grade. It was both genders though, but I just felt so seen because it was for the first time I had a Black teacher, and she was a very outspoken woman with locks from the Bronx. And she loved like all my favorite things. She loved to read, she loved math, she loved science. And it really pushed me. I was like, oh, I can really expand on this. I can be very outward and vocal. She had a big library where we could get books from her class. And it just made me feel so seen to see someone that was like me doing the things that I liked. So to this day,
so that made you feel included.
Yeah. To this day, we're Facebook friends. Like, I love Miss Ansari. Shout out Miss Ansari. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
she was the best.
And one thing you mentioned that's important, sometimes people don't realize how just being the only one, whether it's the only woman or the only person of color or the only young person or old person or skinny person or larger person, that alone, nobody has to say a word, but you're the only, and you know that.
So that was the thing about that school. My elementary school was a predominantly low-income Black school, but a lot of the teachers were like white. So there was this disconnect where the students are going through this certain experience, but the teachers aren't. And then because of that, there was this bias within students themselves where it'd be like, oh, you like that? That's weird. But that's a big thing that's pushed within the Black community where liking certain things is considered being white. And so for me, I was often told, oh, you like that? That's white. And then
Acting
seeing
white.
a teacher, a teacher who embodied all the things that I loved and
You
was
like
like
to
me.
read.
Yeah. And she liked math. So I loved math when I was a kid. So she pushed me and like, I was just so happy to finally see someone
she
that
gave you
looked
that
like
confidence.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a good story for inclusion. As for exclusion, during COVID, I actually transferred out of Georgia Highlands to a different suburban school in Georgia. And I ended up getting into a really bad car accident while I was there. I was living in off-campus housing. And during that accident, I actually snapped one of my vertebrae. And I was temporarily impaired in my walking, so I couldn't walk on campus. But this is when all the schools were like, hey, let's try and get back. So they had this policy. And I reached out to my professor. I had like a note from a neurosurgeon saying, hey, she can't walk for at least a couple months. They're like, sorry. So then I reach out to my counselor and they go, maybe this just isn't the program for you. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
So they told me to drop all my classes. I ended up dropping them all. I was so like, I was already defeated because of the accident. I had no car. I was just like, woe is me. But I ended up dropping out, and I was like, okay, I just had a
They're
near-death.
lost.
Yeah, I said, I had a near-death experience. Let me save up and do something I've always wanted to do. So I saved up, and I moved to Korea.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Unbelievable.
That's the last thing I
Yeah.
expected you to say.
I
That's
know,
awesome.
I was just like, I need to do something for myself.
When was this? When did you do this?
So this was probably 2021.
You're 25 now, you said?
I am. I'm
Okay.
25. So I was like, I hadn't even turned 21, I think, when the accident happened, or maybe I just turned 21. And it was just like such a switch. I was just like, well, I don't want to stay depressed. Let me at least find something that's worth like being happy about.
I love that you were able to kind of turn that around.
Right.
And, you know, take such a tragic incident.
And just do what just made you happy in that moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would not do that,
Yeah.
you know.
And especially going
true.
somewhere that's so homogenous, being able to see examples of inclusion and exclusion was really amazing as well. Because I got some of my, I got my confidence back there.
Really?
Yeah, honestly.
Oh, I need to learn
How
more.
long were you in Korea
Right.
for?
I was in there for a couple months over the summer, and everybody was like, oh, are you a teacher? Are you here because you like K-pop? And I was like, no, I'm just here because I want to be here.
Yeah, they were shocked.
We just
Wow.
covered the story about the
Unreal.
K-pop Demon Hunters.
Oh, yeah.
I
the
keep hearing
Netflix
about
movie.
that.
That's a good movie.
I'm a little, maybe I'm 39, y'all. So I'm like, am I like too old? What's going on here? Like, I'm gonna look into it though. I don't know. I'm a little, what is this? Okay, so that was an exclusion, and so what I hear you saying is that one thing that came out of that is feeling defeated.
Yes. I mean, I couldn't walk, so all I could do is lay
Right.
and stare at the ceiling and be sad.
And you needed support
Yeah.
during that time from your institution and on the people around you. But if you stayed there, then I would have never met you.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
everything happens for a reason, but you won't forget that experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give y'all mine really quickly. I'll start with exclusion. When I was, I think, 8 or 9 in elementary school, they came out with the gifted program in my school. Oh, wonderful. It was great, right? But before the gifted program, they would split us up in the classroom. So like you were the smart reading group, you were the, right? And the kids knew which group they were in. Now, while I went to a very diverse school, it was very diverse racially, socioeconomically.
This was in New York?
In New York, in White Plains, New York. It was very diverse. Religiously, that was a really great experience. It was still segregated, though. And they segregated you even in the classroom. So I ended up being the only Black girl in these accelerated groups in my class. And so when the gifted program started, I'll never forget it, y'all. The gifted teacher came into the classroom and started calling people out and said, come with me. And the people who that they were calling, I said, wait a minute, they're in the same group as I am, the same reading and math group. So I'm like, wait a minute, I should be going, wherever they're going, I should be going, And then I found out where it was they were going. They were going to Wings. I said, oh, they're going to fly? What are they about to do here? That was the name of the program, Wings. And so I went home, told my mom about it, and I was excluded from the beginning because they didn't even give me the test. You had to take an IQ test. The teacher recommends who gets to go. And I'm like, what? So I was excluded right there.
Yeah.
So my mom went to that school and said, give this girl the test. Okay. And they gave me the test. Now I'm in the program. But now I think I told you, now I'm the only Black girl in the program. And the teacher during this time, and mind you, this is the time of the O.J. Simpson case. Y'all were too young for that probably, but it was heated, okay? It was very divisive, and people had their sides, and my teacher made it clear what side she was on. She was supposed to be teaching us. Instead, she'd be in the corner listening to the radio and getting upset, you know? And
my gosh.
so I knew where she stood. I knew where society stood. I watched the news. I listened to the adults around me. And she treated me so differently from everybody else in the class. I noticed it very early. Just not calling on me when I raised my hand, giving me these stares, chastising me for things that she didn't chastise the other children for. And I noticed it. But then I said, okay, I'm still young, 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
So, my mom was very upfront with me about what I could have been dealing with, right? And I knew it was something when we had to submit these projects. And these would be big projects. We'd go to the library, make these poster boards on Greek mythology, aviation. I'm 8 years old, okay? It was big. And then we'd have these days where we would present them. It was the first presentation. And this woman said I did not do the work.
Oh.
She said, I don't have Bentleys. I don't have hers. So I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, are you on your way? I don't know what to do. She said she doesn't have mine. Long story short, I can't quite remember what happened with it, but I know for the second year, I said, I'm going to have to make 2 of these projects because she might say I lost my project again. And do you know she did? She said the same day, it's presentation day, I don't have hers. I said, Mom, I called her up. I said, Mom, bring the second backup project, please.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I had to learn how to fight this very early, but it was a mess. And then the second year I was in it, some of my friends who were also African American, they didn't know about it either. So I said, go home and tell your mom about this program.
Yeah.
And now they were in it with me, and I wasn't alone. It felt better to have them, but then she started, she treated us all the same, and we had to just bond on each other.
Yeah.
They got out of it, some of them. They never stayed in it. I continued in it till middle school, but it was very difficult. But I have to, again, thank that woman. I won't say her name. You know y'all. Okay? For building the strength in me, because I dealt with that exclusion at 8, at 15, at 17. The only time I didn't deal with it was at Spelman College. The only time I didn't deal with it was there. I dealt with it last week, okay? Yeah. And so, but I'm able to bounce back from it and come up with a plan. Do I need to make 2 projects, or what do I need to do?
And then it's funny that I was wondering, did it stem from just OJ or Black people in general? Because OJ himself didn't identify as Black.
That's
which
right.
Is the funniest part to me.
Right? He didn't. But that time, see, you all were young. It was so divided racially.
Yeah.
People had their sides. They were tuning into this court case that was on TV, and it was such a big division. Not that different from today. Today we're divided over a lot of things. Politics, religion, and people are not able to have civil discourse or even go to work or schools and talk about things. They'd rather just hate on each other, And so I saw that very early. And so that was my first experience of exclusion with a teacher, and it shaped me. I thank her, but it also was a very difficult experience.
It's so crazy how, outrageous people can treat you. It's like when you're that young, you almost can't even believe it. Like, it's like, is this really happening? Like, you almost think like it must be me. Like how, it's like so
I knew
crazy.
it wasn't me. I knew it wasn't me. Even at
because
that young
I
age.
did not.
See, and I heard you say that.
Yeah.
I heard you say that, and I hope, my hope for you is that you continue to know that it's not you, and that you don't let that stuff creep into your head. And anybody who makes you feel like that, like you're not safe, you can't be who you are, and you get the heck away from them.
It's not a pro-con list. To my counselor in 6th grade, okay?
Yes.
It's
yes. Do you still know her? Because that is powerful. It doesn't matter if it's friends, partners, cut them off because they're not safe spaces.
Yeah.
That teacher was not a safe space for me.
Right.
But I was safe at home, and I knew it wasn't me. It's her.
Yeah.
She had these biases, and she was taking it out on a child. I didn't want to know what she would do to adults if she was like that to me, right? So I'll give you my inclusion story before we wrap it up. My inclusion story is in graduate school. I went to Emory. I had a very challenging experience there, but there was a mentor I had all the way from Canada, University of British Columbia, Dr. Andy Barron, and he took me under his wing. He taught me about the test that I still use today, the implicit association test, how to program it, how to study it. He saw that I needed help. He saw that I was alone at my institution and nobody was helping me. He saw I had promise and potential, and he poured into me. He was hard on me. But you can tell when someone is hard on you because they want you to be better. Yeah. Because they give you constructive criticism. Versus they're hard on you just because they dislike you and for just who you are. And they'll tell you some just crazy criticism that don't even make sense. Don't internalize that stuff. Okay? But when somebody comes to you with some constructive stuff, that's what you want to take in. And that's when I feel included. Yeah. Is when somebody is like, I want to help you. How do they want to help you? They want to show you where you went wrong, give you some resources to do so. Shout out to Teresa Hutchins, who is the head of online learning here at Georgia Highlands College. She recently gave me such a great training on how to improve my online courses, things I needed to know. Yeah. My courses in general. And she sat down, her and Julia Reedy sat down with me for an hour. Yeah. Gave me a whole template of stuff that I need to do. Now, they called me out. They said, look, what are you doing here? Okay. But they also did it with love. Yeah. And they told me what I needed to do, not just, and they didn't just give me negative feedback. Right. Because that's what'll happen oftentimes. Oh, you can't do anything right. Yeah. They told me where I was positive too. They told me they believed in me. Shout out to you, Teresa Hutchins.
That's something I've learned as editor-in-chief, too, of the newspaper is that, when I was kind of learning all of this stuff, that positive feedback is so important. Just, reading each other's stories, and it's just, it lifts you up.
I see you. But you know what happens? When people have certain personality traits or real bad stereotypes and negative biases, they wouldn't give you positive feedback if somebody paid them to. Right. And those are not the types of human beings we want to be. Even if you don't like somebody. Right. Even if they say something you don't agree with. With what just happened in our society, we saw, people may not have agreed, but that doesn't mean we can't sit down and talk. Yeah. And find, maybe we have something in common. Maybe I don't agree with you, but I don't have to hate you. Yeah. It can go that far. Right? Where you really just don't like somebody. Forget race and gender. No, that's another area that can lead to you not liking somebody. But sometimes people just don't like people because of their beliefs, or maybe they did something to them, right? That made you not like them. But I want our community to check that in themselves. Yeah. And lean into that. Go hang out with that person. Go to lunch with them, See if you can learn something from them and find your common denominator.
There's an exceptional quote.
What is it?
I think it was last year, or no, maybe it was the year before. We went to CMA with the paper, which is College Media Association. They have it on UGA every year. And there was a person from a magazine called The Bitter Southerner. And so they laid some copies out for us to take home. And so I took one, and I can't remember what his last name is. I think he's a rapper, Mike something. But this is what he says. He says, why would you be surprised? He says, we should be speaking with people who we don't agree with. I'm not trying to win an argument. I'm trying to understand. We're really going for understanding, and understanding in the absence of ego, which is, I think, the most important part. It doesn't mean you have to agree with the person that you're disagreeing with, but you just start to understand their perspective. And that's, I saved that because I took so much from that.
Oh, that's such a beautiful quote. Stop being so scared
and
to
so
talk
emotionally
about it.
driven. Yeah. You got to put your emotions aside.
Yeah. I remember I used to work with kids for a while, and I had a student, he was probably around 10, and he told me, he was like, yeah, I just noticed that all of the black teachers, they're so sassy. One, the teacher he was talking about, she wasn't black. She was actually Pakistani.
Oh,
so I had to
jeez.
teach him that not all brown people are the same. Not all brown people are
Outgroup
black.
homogeneity. We talk about that.
Yep. But then he said, yeah, and there's some other things, but if I say it, it's racist. I had to tell him, I was like, if you're
How
already
old was he?
thinking it, he was around 10. Yeah. He was a cute little blonde hair, blue-eyed child. But I had to tell him, I was like, hey, if you're already thinking it, it's already racist. You're already thinking it. But his parents had taught him, if you're thinking it, just keep it inside. So I told him, hey, if you're thinking it, maybe do tell somebody so that they can explain it
Kinda
to you.
guide
Because
you.
this small little implication that he assumed all black women were sassy, when I said, well, realistically, we're just sarcastic because we're 19-year-old teachers. Almost all of us were, because it was ASP. And then when he said that, he was like, oh, okay. So you're not sassy, you're just being funny? And I was like, yeah.
10 years old. And, we don't build that filter up, so kids will say these things.
Yeah.
Versus adults, we won't say it, but it's in there. We'll wrap it up here. I just want to talk about some ways in which we can tackle this. Perspective taking. We need to interrupt our biases. Create psychological safe spaces where people can say whatever they want, be whoever they want to be. You may not agree with it, but you allow them to speak. You show interest too. Remember, you said that is what makes you feel included.
Yeah.
Use inclusive language. Know what to say and what not to say.
Yeah.
And if you are only with people who are like you, believe me, you don't know what to say and what not to say.
Yeah.
You need some new friends. As Drake said, no new friends, but go get some new friends. Invite difference. Love it.
Yeah.
Welcome it. Ask it to come to your house, okay? Even if it's difference that you don't like if somebody kind of rubbed you the wrong way, give them a second chance.
Yeah, just
okay?
conversation. goes a long
Conversation.
way.
Hopefully they can come back from that and at least apologize, if they did something even unintentionally, but invite that in.
Yeah, and that person, that person is probably learning a lot more from you than you are from them, and that's
Yes.
really,
That's so
that's
important.
the point.
That's so important. And then the last thing is, and we're trying to do this more at Georgia Highlands, and I've called this the Common Denominator program. So look out for more of this. I've only piloted with the faculty so far, but what the basis of the program is to invite people to find what they have in common first. We could be different across many things and not agree across many things, but let's figure out what we have in common. After that, then we can talk about things we may not have. So we did this little activity beforehand. Each of us wrote a list of 10 things about ourselves, but we did it by ourselves. And then we looked at each other's list, and this is what our common denominators are. We are different, but we are the same in way more than ways. And so what I have is we're all Christians, we're women, we're girls, we're American. So two of us have anxiety, we're passionate, we're outgoing, we laugh a lot and consider ourselves funny, hard workers, perfectionists, love books. Two of us are the youngest sibling, we're daydreamers, kind of picky. And one thing I just pointed out is that two of us had some really traumatic 6th grade experiences. I'll have to tell you about mine later.
Yes.
Common denominators. And so look out for more of that at Georgia Highlands. I'm trying to push this program throughout our school to have events and discussions that help people to find their common denominators, people who you would think are different.
And those common denominators actually are longer than each of our 10 lists.
Oh my goodness, this sure is. It sure is, and I bet you we could find 20 more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. I really appreciate you both. I'm so glad to come together. I'm
Yeah,
proud
thank you
of
so much for coming on the
I
Student
can't wait to
Spin.
see where both of you are in 10 years and just cite me. Okay, just say Dr. Gibson was your professor or your mentor, and I'm going to be with you hopefully through the journey.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
thank you.
I hope we go viral. Let's go viral.